everybody, and welcome. I am Lauren Weinberg. I am the Becoming Coach. I am a psychologist turned women's empowerment and holistic well-being coach.
Hi, and I'm Melanie McLeod. I'm a certified professional coach and I specialize in spiritual business coaching. Welcome to Talking Transformation Live.
Where it will always be real talk in real time for real people, because that's us, and more importantly, that's you. So,
Absolutely. So
welcome,
welcome.
everyone.
We're a double welcome here.
Double welcome. We're so in sync today, Mel. So if there's anybody out there with us live, please say hello. Please drop a comment in the chat. That's the only way that we know that you're joining us. Whether you want to say hello or join in the conversation, we would love to hear your thoughts. And so, how are you doing today, Melanie?
I'm doing excellent, Lauren. How are you doing today?
I am doing so well. Another
Good.
Monday. This is the best way to start the week. I just love when we get to have our conversations.
I do too. And voice is a little rough today, but we're still gonna do this thing. And I'm really enjoying being here every week. So let's talk about the topic of the day.
Yeah, today is a heavy one, I think, for a lot of people. Today we're decided to talk about anger. It's an emotion that everybody experiences from time to time, but some people more than others. And
Absolutely, absolutely. And I think this topic is important, especially when we use anger to to be a victim in some cases, and it's like I'm angry because of what you did to me. And one of the things that I think is important really to think about is when you are in anger, where is it coming from? It's kind of one of the first questions I would think you want to ask. Where is it coming from?
yeah, well, you know what? I think that is a super important question. And I want to dive into that and I want to talk about that more. But I think even before that, and I'm only jumping in to say before that because I think that our body sometimes reacts even before our head. And so sometimes the first question that I ask people is, where do you feel it? Like, how do you even know when you're angry? What is your body doing when you're angry? And
Oh,
right, that's
yeah, that's interesting. Because I think the question is, what constitutes anger? Is it screaming at somebody, or is it something, a physical reaction that's going on for you? Because I think a lot of us don't think about some of the disease or some of the problems that we may have can come from suppressed anger. But I think that a lot of us think initially like this blah anger. And so I think the questions may be different depending on what's going on. But it's still, the question is, where's it coming from?
yeah,
And then what am I feeling? I think they're two very important questions.
they are two very important questions. And it's so interesting that you said that about some diseases. I mean, that mind body connection is so super strong. And I know because I have a family member who has a lot of digestive issues. And that's one of those key connections with, like you're saying, that repressed anger that you don't let out, and that what it can do to your body. So that is an area that is often affected from the anger that's held inside. So say more about what you mean about where it's coming from.
Yeah. So, I think the question becomes, am I reacting to something? Was I triggered? Because if I tell people all the time, I'm silly. I said, if I walked up to you and said, your hair is green, are you going to get mad at me and start screaming at me because I said your hair is green? Well, it's not green. So you just look at the person like, yeah, okay, whatever. That's not a big deal. But when I start reacting to this person and really, really getting upset, why am I getting upset? Is it because what they said, or is it because of what I'm saying to myself after I heard that? How is it making me feel? Why am I so upset? Because It doesn't matter what somebody says. Unless you believe it to be true and it hurts you on some level, there's no reason to have a reaction.
Yeah, boy, did my husband and I go round and round. We must have done 15 rounds about that one recently, where we were really going like, it's hard to understand that concept that nobody else or some external circumstance can't make you feel a certain thing. And I know that you love to say that all the time, right? Like that nothing outside of you, no one else can make you feel anything. You make you feel.
Yeah.
And it's so tied up in the old tapes that we carry, in those limiting beliefs that we have, in those staunch beliefs of right and wrong, right? We get sucked in by our belief systems, and we all have them. We all have different buttons, right,
Yeah.
that get pushed,
Yeah.
and you have to know yours, right? Like it's helpful to know yours because then forearmed is forewarned, and
Yeah.
you can see what's happening. So when you combine that, those triggers with your bodily reaction and knowing that, you feel your blood pressure going up, right? You get that red in the face. You start to clench your fists, or for me, it's always the squeezing of the jaw, right?
Yeah.
Where I start to clench up. And I know personally, like it really used to be an issue. I was just writing about this today. Before I understood what it was to be intentional about how I want to show up in the world, I would let everything flood over me and I would have these huge reactions until I realized I
Absolutely.
didn't have to.
And I think we've all been guilty of that. But one of the things that I find is when I'm reacting, sometimes it's because we have expectations of people or of what we want something to look like, what we want a situation to be like. We want what we want someone to say and how we want them to say it.
Yeah.
And then when they don't do it, then it becomes a disappointment. When people disappoint us, we start to get upset because we say, well, why can't they give me what I want? But the bottom line is, whatever you want, you need to give to yourself because no one should have expectations of someone. If someone chooses to do something for you, that's nice. But forcing people to do things and writing the script of how they're supposed to handle everything around you, what they're supposed to say, what they're supposed to buy you, how they're supposed to say it, those are unrealistic expectations of other people. And then when they don't meet those unrealistic expectations, you get angry about it. So I think sometimes it's really looking at, why am I angry? Is it because I'm disappointed? And if so, that's coming from me. What's happening that I'm feeling that way?
Yeah, and disappointment could take so many forms, right? It could be a sense of failure, a sense of, right, you tried to do something and it didn't work out the way you wanted to. It doesn't always have to do with another person, but it's trying to control the uncontrollable.
Yeah.
Um, I'm thinking of just like, people get furious that the stock market is crashing and they're trying to assign blame and say it's this one or it's this one when there's a whole conflagration of things that created this situation and you can't control it.
Right.
So what is that anger doing? There's nothing outside of you that's making you angry. And this is what was so hard, for my husband and many people to understand, for me to understand before I dove deeper into it, that it might feel like it's the external situation doing something to you. But that's a mindset that something is being done to you.
Yeah.
And I
And the
always try to flip it.
control thing that you just mentioned is
Yeah,
feeling out of control.
it's feeling out of control. And just trying to flip that script, that mindset switch that says, okay, if I think about this as being done for me and not to me, what changes?
And
Because one,
I like that because, the thing is if I don't like what's being done for me, then I can choose to change that.
yeah, or even you learn. Sometimes it's just you learn from it, right? Sometimes it's just a
Right.
situation that for me is just to give me a learning opportunity.
Yeah. And if you're not happy with the stock market, call your financial planner and you can talk about other options.
Where you can wait and wait for it to come back because it will,
Wait,
because
or you
things cycle.
exactly, or you can opt out. It's a choice. There are choices.
Yeah, and it's okay to be disappointed. Like there's a whole spectrum of feelings out there, and sometimes I think anger is the quick one to grab.
Yeah.
Anger feels like something you have control, like that's giving you control in the
Well, it
moment.
feels good because it's a lashing, it's rage and it's like I'm venting. So in that moment, there's all kinds of ways to vent, but that is one way to vent. So when I'm angry, I'm venting. So all the thoughts and the feelings and emotions, they're pouring out. That part is good, but there's ways to be able to have a release without releasing on someone.
Yeah, because it's often the people who are closest to us who are the recipients of that lashing out just by sheer proximity and because we feel entitled to have some sort of authority over them in that way. I was just talking about this with my daughter the other day. Like, nobody gets to lash out at somebody else. Like, it's not okay, like, ever. That's just not a thing that's okay. Like, that's where you have to draw the line and say, okay, I may feel like I'm doing that to have some control, but I'm not in control. That's me being out of control. And that's an entitlement that I get to act in such a way that impinges on somebody else. Because that's not really the way that true relationship
Right. Well,
thrives.
and sometimes because somebody's angry, it makes you angry. So now you're lashing back at that person because you feel like they lashed at you. So you've got anger meeting anger. So it's a thing where can I not take that personally? Can I calmly say to the person, may I ask why you're angry? Or may I ask why you're needing to yell in this moment? Okay, because that sometimes
Right.
you can really, that person can really realize what they're doing and then go, oh my goodness, I'm sorry. I did not mean to scream at you. But when you meet them with that same intensity, it's going nowhere pleasant.
Absolutely. And that is just fuel and fuel that fans the flames. But it takes that intention, right, Melanie, to know ahead of time because that was me. I was instantly sucked in and we would, fan each other's flames and I felt entitled to then take it out on people. And it wasn't until I realized that that's not the energy that I want to show up with in the world. That's not who I want to be. It's not how I want to be.
Right.
And when I realized that I have a choice in that matter and that making that choice can help me show up differently no matter what's going on around me, that
Hmm.
things started to change. But I needed that
Absolutely.
awareness.
Absolutely. And one of the things that I've done in my relationship is to be able to say, look, let's remember this. When one takes the high road, when the one takes the low road, the other takes the high road. And so if you see me taking the low road, please don't go there with me. Okay? Please don't
That's
go there with
awesome. That's another Milanism. If I'm on the low road, let me walk it alone. Don't come with.
Please let me walk alone on that road. Don't join me. Okay.
I
So,
love that.
so when I
That's
realize
such a
I'm
good
all alone,
visual.
yeah, when I realize I'm all alone, I might need to switch and go, oh, you're up there. Maybe I need to join you up there.
But we started to talk about, and it is true that getting at the stuff that's underneath the anger, whether
Yeah,
it's disappointment, like we said, or a sense of failure, or even shame. I don't know that we talk enough about shame, but
yeah,
shame is a big one. That nobody wants to be sit there. If that doesn't feel good, anger can feel good. Shame doesn't. It never feels good. And if that's what you're experiencing, it often gets expressed as anger because that feels like a safer place to go than shame. But it's giving vent to like the true feeling underneath that really helps to let it go.
yeah. Yeah, so it is important to think about what are the things that you can do. So, in the heat of the moment when you feel yourself really having that energy and needing to figure out how to release it, Sometimes it's better to walk away. Sometimes you can find things to do like exercising and writing and breathing. Breathing to me is it's been a lifesaver to me. And I mean that as a pun. Like it saves your life in more ways than one. And I think that when you're really, really feeling upset or you're trying to find a way to say what you want to say without it being nasty, breathing.
Breathe. Pause and breathe. The power is in the pause. Just take that moment. We talk about that. I think it comes up in every episode, right? Because to me, that is one of your greatest weapons at any given time when you need just to take that little time out, is that pause and that deep breath. And it's really, there's different ways to breathe. If you want to energize yourself, make your inhale longer than your exhale. But when you want to calm down, focus on making your exhale longer than your inhale.
I
And
love that. That's awesome. Those are great, great tools and techniques. So as we begin to wrap up, Lauren, is there any last words that we want to leave folks with?
yeah, just, think about how you want to be and who you want to be in this world, and let that be your guiding light. So you have that sort of stake in the ground to check in with, to say, is reacting in anger how I want to show up?
Absolutely. So remember that we're all human and we don't have to be perfect, but we can always put tools in our toolbox that we can take out when we need them to make those little minor adjustments that will make our lives better for ourselves as well as the people in our lives. So thanks for tuning in, and you can reach us either by email at talkietransformationlive@gmail.com, or you can reach us at either one of our websites, Lauren at lastingchangewellness.com and myself at coachussolutions.com. Thanks again, and we'll see you next week.
Take care. Join us live at 5.